Okay, here we go on this hot Tuesday. Yes, let's go. What's that? Okay. Okay, folks, let me double check. Yes, we are. We are live on all of our platforms. Good afternoon, everyone on X. Let me just voice. Audio sounds good. Gian says the audio is good on YouTube, and it is. Yes. Thank you, Gian. Folks, also, let me just double check. Facebook. How about President Trump is just crushing the wind farms, which we're going to talk about, amongst other things. Obviously, not just that. I'm not doing an hour on wind farms. Don't panic. Don't call Butler and see if someone's escaped. Not yet. Not yet. Don't worry about that. We're not at that point. We're getting close, but we're not there just yet. Nope. No, we're going to talk about. Okay, let me just get rid of that. And we're going to start in 3 minutes. 3 minutes. Okay. Okay. Yes, and we're good to go. That was a bad accident this morning. That did not look like a successful turn that the truck driver was trying to make, to say the least. There's Colleen. There we go. Yes, and we will be back 4:30 today. We'll be live on all these platforms. Yes. And later today, we're going to talk about Alan Jackson and Vanity Fair. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to touch on it very briefly right now. There's our YouTube crowd. As folks, all of our platforms. Right now, we're live. We're going to be going 2 minutes out, where we're live on Facebook, X, YouTube. Make sure you follow all three platforms. Plus, we're going to be live on AM 1380 and also 99.9 FM. But our 4:30 program resumes this afternoon. Yes. So we'll talk about that. AJ is the man of the moment, without question. He was just brought on to that huge, this big trial on the West Coast. It's a terrible, terrible story. And we'll talk about that. Thank you to everyone on YouTube. I know people do the super chats, super thanks. People enjoy the content. We're going to be live in 2 minutes. Yes, I am a towel. There's Heather. Last night on Road Patrol, we should have gone with that motorcycle accident. That was my call. It's all timing. It's all timing. I like on the by the way, it's subscriber only on Road Patrol unless we ride with the police. It just makes more sense. It's a more VIP fitting setting. And frankly, it's also safer. I don't have people following me like we've had sometimes in the past. But Kevin put out, boy, there's a bad problem with these. They call them swatting calls, where these people they're using 911 online, and it's always like a woman, and I fired a weapon, and they're all fake, but they've been hitting Warwick pretty heavy, and it's a terrible resource for law enforcement. You saw it in Pawtucket. I'm going to say, I think it was probably 3 weeks ago now, 2 weeks ago now. Pawtucket had one. Someone calls, I'm in the house. All right, we're going to start. Folks, well, it is a very hot and humid Tuesday. Good afternoon, one and all. Yes, John DePietro is live on AM 1380, 99.9 FM. No, you can always listen online at our website, which is DePietro.com, which we will continue to update as we seg from one story to the next. DePietro.com. Folks, this portion of the program, we're also, right now, we're live on X. We're live on our YouTube channel that continues to grow. And we're also live on Facebook, as we're about to hit 97,000 followers on our Facebook page. And then that is our number 2 platform. Number 1 platform is still TikTok. 110,000 followers. But folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Everything you need is available. Annuals, perennials, trees and shrubs, hanging pots, 10-inch, 12-inch moss baskets, hanging impatiens, pansy, marigold bags, large selection of beautiful patio pots. Now also at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, especially right now, this time of year, this is a tremendous time to pop in because they have native corn. They also have delicious fresh vegetables and peaches, great peaches. It's all, folks, they're waiting for you at PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Stop it and see them. They are a full-scale nursery, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. They're open 7 days a week. And they have gift certificates, and they also have original artwork. For instance, a custom-made birdhouse. That's a great gift to give to someone to hang right outside their window, and each morning they get to see the birds come in. Folks, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center, they're open 7 days a week, right off of Route 4, 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. You can certainly stop by if you're going to the beaches. Stop it and see them. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. Now, I mentioned our website, DePetro.com, which is brought to you by the Cohasset Inn. Hot day like today, and it is nice and air conditioned. The Cohasset Inn, great meal waiting for you, lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge, for crying out loud. Plus, they have the market at Cohasset, the Cohasset Inn, 226 Cohasset Avenue, West Warwick. They have great specials on seafood if you love seafood the way I do. Well, folks, this portion of our program is brought to you by Propane Plus. Now remember, for all your heating and cooling, call Propane Plus today, 401-885-4209, or in Massachusetts, 508-252-3359. For Propane's residential commercial, it's Propane Plus. And go to their website, propaneplus.com. You just type in your zip code. They're there for you. It's Propane Plus. So a number of things we're going to speak on. I want to start off, and we're going to talk about this more at 4:30. And that is that famed LA attorney, Alan Jackson, has a big article about him in, spoiler alert, Vanity Fair, where obviously he has cultivated a very strong relationship. Now, don't worry, not going to rehash. Listen, there's nothing to rehash on the Karen Read trial. I'm aware of that. As a matter of fact, no one's more aware of that than I am. But I want to say this because, there was so much interest in the case. And in some ways, people want to still discuss it. Still some aspects to it. Still seems to have some gas in the tank. I'll probably touch on this more at 4:30 today. But so many of you and people love how I covered the trial. I was inside court for the trial. Obviously spent a lot of time on Court TV discussing the trial, plus Fox Nation. But folks, what you need to understand is, and it's kind of surprising, but right now, there's two sides to this. There's two sides to that story. And of right now, it is in past tense because it happened. It's over. The jury weighed in the way they did, and that's the end of it. Probably wouldn't be that way if the jury had gone a different way. And there will be some fallout from this. But what you need to understand, because I hear from so many people, I love your impressions. I love your impressions of La Posada. I love your impressions of Alessi. I love your impressions of different people. And I appreciate that. But what you need to understand, and this is important, there's only one side talking. There's only one side talking right now. That's it. In some ways, this is almost like a campaign, if you will. And there's only one element of this, of people that are speaking. And it's the side that was celebrating. So, that could be for various reasons, which admittedly, I don't understand. I don't. But I don't have to walk in the shoes of many of the people that have been greatly impacted by this and greatly impacted by it. But right now, There's only one part of the equation that is talking for whatever reason. So is it surprising? Yes. As of right now, there's one lawsuit, and that's the O'Keefe family. That's it. Why? I don't know why there aren't more. I don't. I don't have an explanation. I can't get into the minds of certain people. I can tell you that there's a lot, there's a good number of people that consistently, were telling people that once this is over, then and then it's signed. So right now, there's only one side speaking. And the reason I mention that is the Vanity Fair article on Alan Jackson. Flattering to say the least. He could have written it. It's so flattering. But I'm willing to bet, I don't know this, I would think that the writer that did the story, reached out to the other side. Hey, do you want to comment? We're doing this story on, Alan Jackson, who by the way has just taken on a very large, huge case out in LA, where this young man, parents of means, is accused of speeding, and he hit and killed 4 Pepperdine sorority sisters. So, you would think Jackson was like, hey, I'm buying a plane ticket to Hawaii, and I'll see you in a month, like that. But, if you can come up with a certain amount of retainer, and these apparently the parents of this young man, again, this is all out on the West Coast in Malibu, came up with, I would imagine, pretty hefty retainer. So Jackson's quoted in Vanity Fair saying if he had charged full rate for his work the past year and 2 trials, the legal bill would have been $10 million. Well, there's going to be a movie, there's going to be a book and other specials, and that also sets the tone for future clients of, hey, he'd love to represent you. Sounds like a really interesting case. Here's how much you need to put down for a retainer, right? Let's start with $500,000 for a retainer. If you can write that check, we're in business. If you can't, best of luck. Let me know how you make out. But I want to just to put a period in this, and I'll talk more about this at 4:30. But there's only one side talking, and if only one side is talking, then that's the story that is getting out. And by the way, that could be in any situation. Most of the time, you see it in politics. Most of the time, you see it where they talk about, if you're in a political race, you need to define yourself before your opponent, defines you. And many times you see that if a story breaks in politics now, and one side is silent, then the other side basically gets to define the story in the narrative, which is what I'm really trying to say. So that's really what it comes down to. And right now, that side, I mean, again, Vanity Fair, I don't know if they mentioned we reached, I would imagine they would have. I didn't see any quote. It seems like it was written a while ago. Not that long ago, but I mean, just could have been, because it's Vanity Fair is a monthly. So it could have been end of last month, and now it's just hitting the newsstands. For all I know, this is the August issue. But anyhow, it did come out in Vanity Fair. Now, folks, I want to remind you, don't forget, but just to put a period on this, there's an expression, nothing changes if nothing changes. And right now, there is one side that is very aggressive with a narrative, and the other side is silent. Is it really? It's thinking football. If only one team has the ball, what are the chances the other team's going to score? Not very good. Not very good. Time of possession is wildly important in football. And right now, not only is there only one team on the field on offense, but I don't even see any defense on the field. They're basically scoring at will. The aftermath of this has turned into the Globetrotters against the Washington Generals. So now again, I don't know if that's going to change. I have no idea why that exists like that. And quite frankly, other people have said, well, if that were me, I'd be shouting from the rooftops. If that were me, I'd be speaking out. I don't know what, I don't know what to tell you. Folks, don't forget about Arch Design Builders. They specialize in residential design. You can call them, set up that free meeting, 401-207-4124. ArchDesignBuildersRI.com. So what are we talking about? Maybe it's time, is it time for a new kitchen or a new bathroom or a new basement or a deck or a special project? Maybe you want to remodel your home. Arch Design Builders. All you have to do is call them. They have a very good social media presence. But call Ed and Roxanne, set up that meeting, and let's dream. Show them the space. This is what we're talking about. This is what we'd like done. 401-218-9707. Family-run business, the husband and wife duo, and they're terrific. Ed and Roxanne. And whether it's bath and custom remodels, they specialize kitchen. But what makes them special is the attention to detail. We're talking high-end, custom-build customer service. It's Arch Design Builders, 401-218-9707. So I'm going to jump around a little bit on this very hot Tuesday. And I also want to remind you about Watson Materials. They are just fantastic. Extensive collection of pavers, retaining walls, mulch, loam, stone. Call Watson Materials, request a quote. Sean does such a great job. 401-885-0600. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining wall, cobblestone, decorative stone. Watson Materials, the most complete selection of landscape materials in Rhode Island is Watson Materials. 401-885-0600. I like that expression, nothing changes if nothing changes, because it can be used. I believe first time I heard that was someone I was interviewing, and it was someone that was involved with Alcoholics Anonymous. And maybe other people have heard that. It seems cliche, but when you break it down, that nothing will change if nothing changes, like nothing changes if nothing changes. And we're also really seeing this locally with what's going on. I mentioned last night, without question, it's not your imagination. Police are under attack. Law enforcement in our part of the country is under attack. It's not everywhere. You have someone in New York City he won the Democrat primary. And this is someone, he's in favor of defund the police. Now, I lived in New York for 9 years. I lived in New York when Dinkins was the mayor. And it was dangerous. It was dangerous. Taking the subway at night was dangerous. Walking back to your apartment at night was dangerous. And when I first moved to New York, I lived in the Upper West Side. And then I watched Rudy Giuliani come in with Bill Bratton. I've had the opportunity to interview both men. I met Rudy Giuliani at the Columbus Avenue Fair. They had a big fair right around, as you can imagine, Columbus Day. And he was running for mayor, and he had been very successful going after organized crime. But I watched them restore New York City and made it safe. And what happens when you have it safe? The tourists come in. The tourists are not going to go to New York if it's dangerous. People with money are not going to put up with it. I've also talked about progressives tolerate lessening of quality of life. Progressives accept it. Most of us don't want to accept it. You have someone that just won the Democrat mayoral in New York, and he wants to defund the police. He wants to open the prisons. What will New York look like then? And I say that as I have a child that lives there, and loves it. There's a lot to love. I love living in New York, but safety is always an issue there. And so you do have police under attack. And I want to mention, I mentioned it last night. They were called in first of all, in Massachusetts, they're totally under attack. Massachusetts, one thing we have learned is, boy, Massachusetts hates police. I don't know where it comes from. I honestly don't know where it comes from. I remember because I was speaking with someone in the media that lives in another city. And he was saying, whatever happened to Boston Strong? Whatever happened after the marathon in Boston Strong and Big Poppy at Fenway? And, I love this place. I mean, wow. The whole area, they're giving New York a run for the money. When did Boston Strong, Boston Week, Massachusetts, they hate the police. I think right now they take the prize for a state that hates the police. I'm not sure I know where it comes from, but they don't have anyone supporting law enforcement there. Nothing. Back the blue. That's the last thing. Trash the blue is what they do there. And then there are overtones to that flow into the 401. And then you see it. There are certain, and I've talked about this, 5 years ago, 2020, I covered those riots, and I'm going to talk about that because it ties into what's going on right now. But folks, this portion of the program, hey, call Corey, Quality Seal Coating, 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815, Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. They can resurface a pickleball court, a tennis court, a basketball court. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. I don't, hold on, folks. Let me do one thing. Okay, there we go. Remember, they can keep your parking lot looking safe. Make sure your lines are bright, direct traffic safely. They epoxy garages, patios, decorative concrete flooring. It's Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. 401-283-9815, 401-283-9815 for Quality Asphalt Seal Coating. Call them for a free quote, 401-283-9815. It's kind of a difference. There is right now a great story where a member of the Warwick Police Department was coming home from work and he saw flames and he stopped in Cranston, member of Warwick PD, and he stopped and he called 911. Apparently he had to call twice. And he got the family out and saved them. And it was something about some fireworks that have been recaught. And that is an act of bravery. That is an act of a hero. But the story that is making news is, and some people don't realize this, but Channel 12 basically is seen as Channel 12. They do a lot of negative police stories. And Channel 12 has had it out for the chief of police in Providence for whatever reason. So I'll give credit. Channel 10 seemingly was going stronger with the story of this Warwick police officer. And I also want to commend the Cranston police that put out a press release. They wanted to cite his heroic behavior. This is someone in a split second jumped into action. He was off duty. Could have called 911, continued on his way. He even tried to get a garden hose to put out this fire. Turned into a bad fire. He saved a very young family that was a family with young children inside. That was the story on Channel 10. Channel 12, they go with the story of there was a late night party and people are mouthing off to the police. So the police end up bringing 3 into custody. And they have an attorney on that's representing them. And and allows him, there's no evidence that the Providence police, no evidence that anybody ever put a knee on anybody's neck. And Channel 12 allows this dirtbag rep, who's also an attorney, to then throw in, and it could have been a knee on a neck. Gee, I wonder what that's supposed to remind us of. There was no evidence of that in any way. That is like people trying to cause a riot to me, like yelling fire in a crowded theater. So, but to me, look at what's going on in New York. It is something, it's odd. I don't get it with the Northeast. New York City, who would vote for someone that says, let's defund the police and open the prisons? Who would want to live? I would not want to live that way. I would not want to have to live in a city like that. I wouldn't work and live in a city like that. You're talking about a society in day-to-day of life that's like the purge. And he means it. And not only did he say it, but he won the Democrat primary. You have Massachusetts, who they hate police. And now it trickles down into Rhode Island. Let's run this story. Why would you put on an attorney? He's a dirtbag state rep. He was involved with some controversy. I'll look it up. Why would you put him on and allow him to say, and he had his knee on his neck? We know what that is essentially a dog whistle for this is a George Floyd incident. There's no evidence of that. There was no allegation of that. That's an attorney who just happens to be representing all three people who what? If you're a member of law enforcement, if you're anyone, by the way, if you're a next door neighbor, if you approach someone and say, hey, listen, it's past 1 a.m. It's time to turn down the music. You have all these people out in front of the house. So either they're going to go inside or it's time to like break things up a little bit. That should not be met with, insults, vulgarity, blank you. It should not. If it was a neighbor, I don't know if you're a neighbor that you'd actually want to do that. So I would imagine, you're a neighbor. And instead, what do people do? They call the police. Many times when we're out on road patrol, what do we hear? Loud music complaint, no complaint. That's someone, oh, no, I want to be the one. So I don't want those people coming over to my door, right? All these people suddenly, are you the one that called the police? But Channel 12 led with that story. And I thought it was, I think it misrepresented what had happened. And why suddenly they have an attorney? An attorney for what? They're having a party. It's past 1 o'clock in the morning. The police come by to tell you to tone it down. You got to turn down the music. Can't have all these people in the street. So instead you have people coming out and, blank you to the police. How many times are you going to do that where then you're like going after the police when then they say, how much of this are we supposed to put up with? So now you're going to take someone into custody. Why didn't they have the people arrested on camera? I thought it was very poor. Folks, this portion of the program is brought to you by Roofco, Rhode Island. Now, listen, there was a lot of damage. Maybe you had a tree fall on your home. Maybe, you don't know, that was heavy wind with the storm. Roofco, Rhode Island, they'd be happy to inspect your roof. Free estimate on wind damage, leaky roof, missing, lifted, or curled shingles, granules in the gutter. Call Roofco, Rhode Island today, 401-868-7149. They'd be happy to inspect your roof for wind damage and give you a free estimate. Call Roofco, Rhode Island, 401-868-7149. Now, number one, a new roof increases the value of your business or your home. And on top of that, if it has wind damage, very, very good chance that the entire thing is insured. Call Roofco, Rhode Island right now, 401-868-7149. Now, that's what I believe. I believe police in our area are under attack. it is more, to me, it's more the Northeast. Definitely New York. I can't imagine New York. Like, it's one thing that someone says, I think we should defund the police. It's another thing that that person then wins a mayoral primary by doing that. Now, also keep in mind that candidate, he also believes in redistribution of wealth. He believes in $30 an hour minimum wage. He wants government-owned grocery stores. Those are not principles we're founded on. But my point is, it's hard to ignore right now that law enforcement in the Northeast, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, well, I don't know about Connecticut, but definitely Rhode Island, are under attack right now. And I think some members of the media see that as an opportunity and a story to do like that. I find a story like I laid out for you, that Warwick police officer on his way home that stopped and rescued that family in another city who had a fire burning outside with very young children, that there's no way that gets the same play as the other story. And also, I had people send me video of the story. It happened on West Friendship. We went by that street last night on Road Patrol Live. Listen, these are punks, and they're yelling and swearing at police and openly drinking, and they have cannabis going, and it's like a license. They feel it's a license to just scream obscenities at police. I know it. I spent weeks in Massachusetts in Dedham, where you'd get these people come waddling up, and they're in pink, and go up to the police, blank you're corrupt. And I would stand there and they have to take it. Why do they have to take it? You're all corrupt. Like, who? Why do you have to take it? Like, who are these, barely people? Why do they have to put up with that? Of course, then, if you notice, you see every law enforcement agency is saying right now that they're recruiting and they need officers, and it's tough to hold on to people. And there's some departments are really struggling. So, what's the alternative to this? It's like the people that are fighting ICE. In Massachusetts right now, they want to make it against the law that ICE agents can't shield and wear a mask to cover their face. Well, number one, I don't understand why, because you have people out there. I'm out every single night. There's people that cover their face, mostly criminals. But on top of that, you have groups in certain parts of the country, they try to, as they call it, dox. Here's who that ICE officer is. Here's where he lives. Here's who the family members are. Here's where they live and work. What is that? How is that allowed? So, but Massachusetts right now, I think you could make the argument. It's probably the most anti-police state probably in the country right now. I'm not saying it's normally what goes on in Seattle or Portland or parts of California and things like that, but Mass right now is not Boston strong. Just the opposite. It is Boston weak, and it just, the abuse they have to put up with is what just strikes me. So, but there's always overtones. What's going on now, the media trying to flame up these people in South Providence as if, what did the police do wrong? What are you supposed to do? Do you think that when police are trying to handcuff someone that only one person is allowed to throw punches? You think they're not allowed to defend themselves? What are we talking about? Someone's 20 years old, 21 years old. They keep getting in your face. They go to, hit you. Are you supposed to stand there and take it? Why should they have to take it? I don't get that. But I watched it in 2020, where the local media, it wasn't your imagination. And I would talk with police about it. There's definitely certain media that are very much anti-law enforcement. And it shows itself at different times. I think Channel 12 right now, they're looking to try to do more stories. And they're trying to go after Channel 12 for whatever reason has been chasing the chief of police in Providence for a while now, really since he's come in. And they're trying to run him off. And I don't get it. You know, as many of you know, when I've been in a scene, I've interviewed Chief Perez. I like Chief Perez. I think he and the deputy chief have that city locked down and are doing a great job. But you definitely have certain media outlets that try to drum it up. And they're trying to make a story of this. You know, look at these poor innocent guys. And they're just trying to have a party at 1:30. And they may have been drinking. And they, you know, and the cops had no right. And it always starts that way. It's wrong. I'm telling you, it's wrong. And I don't just say that because I ride with the police, which I do. Folks, this portion of the program, hey, summer is underway. Why not your child or grandchild, Kids Club on the Pike, give them a call. Maybe you'd still like to enroll your child for a week or for a month. Kids Club on the Pike, right off of 295 on the Cranston-Johnston line. Give them a call at 401-443-5336. Kids Club on the Pike. Easy to get to, centrally located, right off of 295, 401-443-5336. Birthday party venue. They also, during the school year, they have before and after school care. But right now, they're running their summer camp. Kids Club on the Pike, 401-443-5336. So, again, we will be live at 4:30 today. But what I initially started to talk about is just a short time ago, the president was holding a cabinet meeting, and it's live, and they're talking about energy, and they're talking about one of the reasons why prices are falling, prices on groceries are falling, price of gas is very quickly soon going to be under $3 a gallon, and talked about it really comes down to energy and energy policy. And that's another story. I don't see enough talk in our region. The fact that, you know, Justin Katz and myself talk about it, but Governor McKee, this whole business in the cabinet meeting, they were calling it the green scam. You know, Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee, he and Maura Healey, folks, Rhode Island and Massachusetts, we are so deserving of real leaders. These people are not leaders. They declare war on ICE. They don't help ICE. You know, ICE has to jump through hoops. They had to get that Brazilian wanted sex offender hiding in Cranston. Why do you think that a sex offender convicted in Brazil, why do you think he's hiding in a sanctuary state? Because it's a sanctuary state. Our region of the country, these governors, I mean, there has to be someone more qualified than Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, who I think has done a terrible job and continues to do a terrible job. And Governor McKee just can't get out of his own way. But the rest of the country is going to be thriving with the reduced cost of energy. And so many businesses talk about the key to competitiveness is low cost of energy. And what do we have on the coast of Rhode Island are all these stupid windmills. And as Justin and I have talked about, number one, they're killing the fish and the whales. Number one. Number two, they're an eyesore. They're ruining those views. Number three, it's all a scam. Those are all union dictated jobs. And the only way they can survive is with government subsidies. As the president was saying, how is that an efficient form of energy if you need a government subsidy to make it fly? That's not an efficient form of energy. And I don't even hear anyone talking about it. You know, it is built backwards. How is that going to leave businesses in the Northeast? It's going to leave them, they can't compete. And folks, more and more people, again, it depends on where you live, but more and more people are going to start to, as they talk about, people vote with their feet. How many people do you know have moved to Florida? How many people do you know have moved to the Carolinas? The exodus is on. The problem I have with the Northeast are the policies are not in step with the rest of the country. Other states are not at war with the police. Other states, the Governor DeSantis is not standing in the way of ICE. Governor DeSantis, they've built Alligator Alcatraz. The state of Florida is working with ICE. Governor McKee works against ICE. Healy works against ICE. Like, it hasn't fully become apparent yet. These policies are failed policies. Who would stay in an area that they don't feel safe? What does it say to you that Governor McKee is willing to import criminals in from other countries and let them hide out in our areas, in whether it's Cranston or Providence? Look at Massachusetts, whether it's the mayor of Boston or some of these others, fighting with Tom Homan on ICE. It's not like they're trying to get rid of local dangerous criminals. They're trying to get rid of dangerous criminals who aren't even supposed to be in the country in the first place. And that's where the opposition is. Folks, I believe people need to speak out. This anti-police sentiment that's out there, I think people need to be called out, because it becomes dangerous rhetoric. I know, because of what we do and who I work with. Obviously, I speak with members of law enforcement, men and women, every single day, and sometimes several times a day, and they get it, that it hits a wall. Why is it always negative coverage? Why is it always they're only interested in covering them when there's something negative? And like I said, nothing can compete with Massachusetts right now. Coming up in October, I plan to cover the Brian Walsh case. Now, I was in Cohasset when that story broke, and I was outside the house before he was under arrest, when they were searching Cohasset, which is, obviously a beautiful area along the water. And, there are people right now saying that Brian Walsh should be released. Brian Walsh should be released. He, as frightening as it is, he planned and took the life of his wife, Anna, who was the mother to those 3 little adorable boys, who she was going to move to Washington with her. And there are people right now saying he should go. Why on earth should he go free? Like, we're going, it's going into like Looneyville here. 3 degenerates are arrested for fighting the police at a late night party, and suddenly they have an attorney, and suddenly, local TV is giving him a platform and not challenging him on anything he's saying. Like, what is wrong with these people? It should not happen that way. But I don't hear enough people talking about just a basic sense of energy. Do you understand? Just the Rhode Island energy plan is false. It's already it's already DOA. There aren't going to be any government subsidies for these wind farms. It's not happening. This whole green economy, it's all fraud. It's all false. It's the most expensive form of energy, and the only way it works is with government subsidies, which they're not going to be getting. We learn people like Sandra Whitehouse, the senator's wife. She gets, $300K a year to be, quote, a consultant. What does that mean? For some green energy, climate, environment type company. Folks, this portion of the program, now I want to remind you, if you're thinking of getting your driveway paved, no one has a better program or package for you than J. Perry Paving. High quality, fair pricing, exceptional service. They have the best package for veterans. J. Perry Paving. Free estimate, give them a call, 401-732-1730. So let's say your dad or your mom or your son or your daughter, grandmother, grandfather, whoever is a veteran. Contact J. Perry Paving. They have a great package for them to get that driveway paved. 401-732-1730. 401-732-1730. Letter J. J. Perry Paving. Well, folks, good afternoon. Again, it is this is a hot one, and then it's going to cool down. We will be out tonight. I plan on being live late this afternoon at 4:30. Talk a little bit more about, right now, famed LA attorney Alan Jackson. He is a running back with the ball, and he sees nothing but green turf in front of him. There's no one challenging him. There's no one saying, hey, it didn't happen that way. Zero. And he is throwing haymakers left and right. Unchallenged, by the way. Unchallenged. We'll talk about that, and especially his big piece in Vanity Fair. But, energy is not something we spend a lot of time on. It's obviously not, the sexiest topic. But when you hear the president talking, and when you see like what's really happening, and as he's holding a cabinet meeting and he's talking about different governors and how they're running their state and conducting their state and policy, just start to me, you look at the Northeast right now, in my mind, it's just out of step with where the rest of the country is going. There's certain steps you can tell. The governor of California, Newsom, he is definitely, I was speaking with someone the other day. California used to be, people were arriving every day to live in California. How many people would go west? And oh my God, the vibe and the weather, and they loved it so much. And now California continues to be an exodus with all the policies. I think, this anti-police notion that's out there, it starts to blind people. The police are not, listen, it's not an easy job, but they're not sitting around all day plotting and scheming how they can get away with things and take advantage of things. And listen, like in Providence, there's that Officer Hanley. The Providence police don't want that guy back. They don't want him back. I'll give you that. The process is wrong. How he operates, how he's able to retain his job should be reworked, because they don't even want him back. But there's definitely a growing sentiment out there. And I don't know where. I was on Newsmax yesterday, and one of the things they're talking about is complaining that in this new bill that the president has put forward, that there are certain people that if you're going to receive Medicaid twice a year, you have to register. And they also want people that are able-bodied to work. So who would complain about that? But there are people. You see some of these people on social media. You come across some of these people who they want everything for free. They don't want to work. And, we saw 5 years ago in 2020 during COVID of what happens when you don't pay people to work. They're not going to work. If everything starts to become free, who pays for that? No one wants to pay for it. So, I think right now we're just at a pivotal time, because at least in our region of the country, the Northeast, when Congressman Seth Magaziner talks about people being kicked off Medicaid, able-bodied adults, he doesn't mention that they're new arrivals. He doesn't mention that they're not even supposed to be here in the first place. Governor McKee will say that. They don't mention that why should we have to pay for all these people from other countries to come live here and then get free health care? Another big front of the war you're going to hear about it cuts to the Department of Education. And then you're going to hear, oh, wow, we're going to have to make cuts in education. Let's talk about schools. Just in the Providence schools alone, each student it's around $20,000 per pupil, if not sometimes $22,000. So if a large number of these students are not even supposed to be here, what are we talking about? Why do you have to pay that? Why do I have to pay that? But my point is, I don't hear any elected officials talking about this. Going back to Massachusetts for a minute, you don't hear any elected officials coming out and defending law enforcement and even defending some of the myths that are out there about law enforcement. People are just screaming police corruption everywhere, even into areas where it doesn't even apply, even in areas that there's no proof that there was any form of corruption or anything like that. I think when we hit a point where, like the Brian Walsh case, why should that guy walk? The story is gruesome. The guest left. He then, however he did it, I don't remember, but he essentially knocked his wife out. I don't remember exactly how he did it, but okay, so she's there, and then he starts to dismember the body. I mean, it's so gruesome. You don't like to think about it. You don't like to talk about it. And then, that wasn't, there was no corruption involved with that case. It's so alarming. He had this whole narrative that she got in an Uber and went to Logan. So you should look for her in the Washington, D.C. area. She never made it to Logan. There was no Uber that came to the house. So instead, they have his Google searches on the son's iPad that talk about how do you get rid of a body, how long before a body starts to make an odor. I mean, he did that right in the house, right in his own home with his 3 young boys. And she was such, a lovely young mother. And as I've talked about, I've spoken to people that worked with her, and she got a nice place in Washington, D.C., and she was going to have the boys live with her. And I know someone that was with Anna Walsh, helped her decorate the rooms for the boys, was all excited. And that psychopath took her life. And we're supposed to let him go? Why should we let it? This isn't bordering. It's not even bordering on insanity. I think we've already reached there. No, he doesn't get to go. Wrongo. So, but I think what just astounds me is you don't hear anyone you don't hear any elected officials. Like the Massachusetts delegation, Elizabeth Warren and Markey and all those Congress people, I think they're useless. Same thing with Governor Healy. She doesn't even speak out. She doesn't even defend some of the people that are involved. God, it's like I said, it's Boston strong is like in the rearview mirror. Boston strong. When did Boston ever become so weak? Boston right now, the whole area of Boston and all the suburbs is turning into like the laughing stock of the country. Boston strong. Boy, that train left the station a long time ago, like Big Poppy. Now you have weak political leaders. The mayor of Boston, Wu, Governor Healy. I mean, you think back now, to her, it was totally normal that all those illegals were living at Logan Airport. To Governor Healy, it was perfectly normal that they spent $1 billion putting up all these migrants in all these low-rent hotels. I mean, you're talking about $1 billion, and that just became the norm. And the Boston media was like, yeah, that's what they're doing. They're sleeping at Logan until they can get, why are they there in the first place? Why aren't they being flown out? Why are they being allowed to sleep there? Why are they being allowed to stay there? Who are these and who's deciding this? It's actually been building for a while, but to me, it is really starting to kick up. Um, I don't know who's going to be the challenger, but right now, in our part of the country, the Northeast, there is an opening there. I think so, for someone to take on both Governor Healy and certainly Governor McKee. You can't do worse than Governor McKee. The traffic's a disaster with the bridge. You have people that still don't have power because there was a thunderstorm Thursday night. I mean, that's like the power grid of Cuba, where if there's a cloud, people lose power, or Haiti, for crying out loud. Like, where is all this leading? Where are the leaders? I wonder if a lot of the people that normally would have jumped in to lead, if they've already left the area. Maybe that's part of it. Maybe they've been part of the exodus. Maybe somewhere in Texas or Tennessee or Florida or the Carolinas is some man or woman that at one point was living in the Northeast, or even in New York, which is in the Northeast, and said, like, forget this. I am out of here. And then when you see the president talking about these countries coming to the table with the tariffs and the fact that, in other states, ICE is being welcomed. In other states, in certain areas, ICE are treated as heroes. They're ridding the community, the area, of these dangerous criminals that are roaming free in the cities and towns from who are wanted in other countries. The guy that they got in Cranston, he's wanted in Brazil, where he had been convicted of child sexual assault, child predator. Convicted, fled the country. Where does he come? Who will hide me? What do they tell him? Go to Rhode Island. You can hide out there. Governor McKee, come hide here. Matos will get you a place to stay. If you're a sex offender, you're wanted in Brazil, we will protect you. Come hide in the state of. I mean, listen, folks, it'd be laughable if it wasn't true. But that is what's going on, basically. All right, at 1:59 on this Tuesday, listen, stay cool. It is muggy out. It is going to break. If you're listening to the radio, stay tuned. You're going to hear the 2 o'clock news. Everyone else, we're going to be back at 4:30 today, and we'll talk about some of the news of the day. And again, that will be these 3 different platforms. So great job by Gian. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, this is always on demand, so whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or X, you can always watch it. Stay cool on this Tuesday, and stay tuned for, if you're listening to the radio, you're going to hear the 2 o'clock news.